Benny asked 7 people to moderate, and they all said no. So here we are.
He trusted all of us to get up here with no agenda and just to talk. So
talk in that amount of minutes.
That is an intense clock. Everybody who has said that is not lying. That is in your face.
Can't miss that one.
Well, perfect. Well, I think I've introduced myself 14 times today, but again, my name is Katie Collins. I'm president and CEO of the Greater Greer Chamber of Commerce. I'm proud to serve in the middle of both Greenville and Spartanburg counties, so I'll turn it over to whichever one of y'all want to introduce yourself next.
Thank you, Katie. I'm Carlos Phillips. I've been the president and CEO of the Greenville Chamber for almost a decade now. Moved to the Upstate region almost a decade ago from the Midwest and haven't looked back. This is just an awesome place, as everyone here already knows.
Alan Smith, President and CEO of OneSpartanburg, Inc. I've been in my role 11 years now. Prior to that, 4 years in Greer. So 15 years in the Upstate. And really before we begin, I just want to make sure that we thank the USC Upstate team, Benny, Christopher. This has been phenomenal. So appreciate you. Thank you.
So I guess to really kick us off in our discussion, just thinking back on what we've really had to evaluate the last 2 days. We've had so much content to go through, so much data. One of my initial takeaways is, wow, I am not using AI enough. Lewis has a lot to teach me in terms of that. But I also think what he mentioned in terms of the triple helix of academia, government, and industry all needing to be at the table together to make sure we're moving the needle really sums up what we're working to do here. When we think about collaboration and partnership, it does require all of us there, but it requires us speaking the same language too. I think it was Dr. Perez that mentioned it earlier. I'm sure both of y'all have been in rooms where you've heard acronyms and you think you know what they're talking about, and then you realize you've been thinking of a different acronym the whole time. And so for us to really continue to move the needle on that front, making sure that we are all at the table and that we have a commonality through that. And Alan, I know we've heard a lot about the partnerships that OneSpartanburg has got, if there's any that you wanted to touch on initially.
Sure. Well, I mean, there are obviously a lot of challenges, a lot of problems, a lot of opportunities for us to work on in Spartanburg County. But one of the things that we do well, and I believe one of the things that we do the best, is we work together. And anybody that spends any time in this community will realize that that's just the expectation. You know, I've been here, as I said before, I've been here 11 years, and I've seen different institutional leaders come into this community and kind of have the vibe that they're going to do their own thing and they're going to work on an island, and they're really not into collaboration. They're gone in 6 months. It just doesn't work. And so it's really how we do the work here. And so as we've heard before, you know, in order to be effective in the talent development, retention, and attraction space, it has to be that way. You have to have partnerships. And so, you know, something special is happening in Spartanburg, South Carolina, when you think about SAM and Movement 2030 and the $100+ million that's being invested in economic mobility and the convening of the work that they are doing through their partners like us. And then you think about K-12 being engaged, and everybody's said that, but what's interesting in Spartanburg is we have 7 school districts. That's interesting itself, but that's not really the point. 3 of those superintendents retired. All 3 of them are engaged in this work. So you got Dr. Owings, who works at Spartanburg Academic Movement, Dr. Russell Booker, who's the CEO of Spartanburg Academic Movement, and then you got Dr. Ron Garner, who we hired, who's Chief Talent Officer. So trust and relationship with the superintendents in the 7 districts is built in because they were one of them. They understand the barriers, they understand navigating the bureaucracy, and then Jack mentioned it earlier. And a big example of partnership too is the data sharing agreements. I mean, Sam was able to get data sharing agreements from all 7 school districts. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And so that's another example of partnership. The 7 school districts, Jack mentioned it, College Town, you know, and then the private sector. So 2 weeks ago, we announced 600 work-based learning opportunities through 120 plus partners, both public and private sector. And so, I could go on and on. I think people sometimes talk about partnership in this altruistic form, but in Spartanburg, it's really how we do the work. It is the expectation. And we're not settling for what we have right now. We're still very hungry. We want better. We want more.
Katie, I first want to say you're sitting in a pretty dangerous position between Alan and I. We're in no way competitive or anything like that, but I sense from some commentary I've heard today, it really kind of confirmed that our communities, both Greenville, Spartanburg, and Greer, doing a lot of great things. And it's great that those things have been amplified here today. At the Greenville Chamber, we recognize that we do absolutely nothing in isolation. Everything that we do, everything that we work on, the success and impact that we experience, it is through partnership. One of our 5 values at the Greenville Chamber is to achieve together. And that's not just an internal value. That is a value that is actually the secret sauce, I'll say, of Greenville. I know Alan, you said that, Spartanburg, they collaborate and partner better than anybody. I'll raise you one.
Okay.
Because we like to tout that as our secret sauce in Greenville as well. And we've got several examples of how we do that. And these are partnerships between the private sector, the public sector as well. But we've got a program in Greenville, Launch Greenville, that is a paid internship program for high school juniors and seniors. And almost 800 kids have gone through that program, and we're about to scale that, and engagement will grow in that program. But it's the paid part that's important about that internship initiative, because a lot of folks can't afford non-paid internship opportunities. And about half of the participants in that paid internship program have a poverty indicator. So it's the paid part is very, very important. But the Chamber launched the program, but we partnered with Greenville County Schools on that, a 75,000 student school district. We partner with them on that program. And then our employers are stepping up as well. They're the ones paying these interns to work for them. And so that's one example of partnership. And I have to give a shout out to Chancellor Harris as well, because USC Upstate engages in that program in a very meaningful way. Speaking of partnerships, how many scholarships, Dr. Harris, have you provided to USC Upstate through that program? 12. And I know of one that's in this that at least was in this room today. Yes. I don't know if he's still here or not. But again, an example of partnership, not just in Greenville, but throughout the region. We have a partnership that helps adult learners go back to school and earn a credential or certification. That's been a great partnership with Greenville Tech in our community. That program is about to scale, and it won't scale because it's just a chamber working in isolation. It requires a partnership. And then I think the ultimate one that I will speak to is the goal in Greenville County that 60% of our working age adults have at least a high quality credential or higher by the year 2030. President Miller affectionately calls that the 60 by 30 initiative. So we're currently at 51, just over 51% of our working age adults with some high quality credential or higher in Greenville County. And our goal is to get to 60%. Dr. Miller is convinced that we'll achieve that by 2030, and I'm not going to dispute him on that. But we will achieve that goal through partnership between the business community, the employer community, through the academic institutions throughout our region, and quite frankly, these willing students who recognize that they need more to earn more. They need more to earn more for themselves and for their families. So those are just some examples of some of the partnerships.
So I know you said I'm in an interesting spot, but I will raise both of you.
That's the privilege of speaking last, I guess.
Well, it sure is, but it's also the privilege of being Greater Greer. So for those of you that don't know, Greer is split between two counties. So my office is in Greenville County, and 2 blocks away is Spartanburg County. So I have started drilling into my board that we are Greater Greer, which means we get Greenville and Spartanburg. But with that, I think that allows some interesting partnership opportunities, but also some interesting conversations, because part of partnership is not redundancy. We could start a Greer internship program, but why would we do that when we could lean into a partnership with Launch Greenville? There is so much opportunity to more effectuate change and work really by leaning into those partnerships, as opposed to necessarily saying, hey, we have to be the ones to do it specific to this area. And so I think that raise you one up, but Greater Greer is in a unique proposition for that. Something that I think requires partnership with all of us, and more than just the chambers, but across this room as a whole, is when we really start looking at a policy level of how we can effectuate large-scale change. And Carlos, you mentioned economic mobility. Alan, yesterday you mentioned the child care issue, particularly as it mentions workforce development. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to grow our efforts in that area. So Carlos, from an economic mobility standpoint, I mean, where are you seeing that work go?
Well, I think from an economic mobility perspective, first of all, we have to look at the data. And in our community, folks born in the lower economic quintile are less likely to move into the highest economic quintile at a greater degree than almost any other community in the Southeast. So we've got some work to do there. Again, there are various organizations throughout our community that are working to address that. At the Chamber, we see, again, educational attainment as a path to economic mobility as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a bachelor's degree or a doctorate. It's great. But there are opportunities, and many of those have been addressed today, that don't require that level of education, but they do require some sort of training, some sort of skill and certification. And we see that as the clearest path to increasing economic mobility.
Absolutely. I was going back through some numbers on Greater Greer earlier specifically, and I was amazed to see that we have a 94% high school diploma attainment rate, which is much higher than the state average, but almost 50% have a bachelor degree or higher. So to your point, when it comes to economic mobility, that educational attainment is huge. Alan, and I also don't know how I ended up being moderator here, so by all means, y'all just jump in.
You can never go wrong when you put a woman in charge. So there you go.
That's why I sat in the middle, I guess. But I mean, on the child care issue, I think that is something that post-COVID, we have seen, you know the numbers better than I, the women leaving the workforce because of that and the effects it has on workforce development. Where are you seeing the policy issues as it goes into session next year?
So our labor force participation rate isn't what it needs to be. We know that. We know that the two greatest barriers to labor force participation rate are transportation and child care. And what a complex issue that is. Accessibility, affordability, it's a workforce issue as well. In fact, we know that, now walk with me on this stat, for every 1,000 kids under the age of 10, there's 15.7 child care workers. So, it's obviously, it's not a career that people want to get in. The wages aren't good. The hours aren't good. Then you have just an accessibility issue to where there just aren't the seats as well. So complex issue. We've admired the problem enough. So now let's start talking about solutions. So Power Up Spartanburg is our small minority business development initiative funded by Spartanburg County Council. And we're recognizing tremendous scale with that. I think we've had 2,523 small businesses engage in that initiative, 28 small business child care providers. One of the things that they kept telling us was, if not for a wall coming down, if not for a bathroom being retrofitted, they could add 10, 12, 14 more seats, but they just didn't have the capital to make those improvements. So we went to the Mary Black Foundation and we said, and this is also the beauty of having talent and small business and economic development and tourism all under the same roof, because this conversation literally happened at the coffee pot. The director of Power Up was talking to the chief talent officer, and they said, boom, if we could create a fund to where these small business child care providers could get micro grants to knock that wall down and create more seats, we'd be cooking. So we went to the Mary Black Foundation. We convinced them to put in 100. We put in 100. We had $200,000. We had a press conference, and we said these micro grants are available. You have to provide quality child care seats. You have to go through quality counts, which is a program. Spartanburg County is the only one in the state where we're really measuring quality on a star rating system. And so we had, I think we had 18 or 19 applicants. We funded five. Five collectively now, I think, have created 126 new child care seats out of those grants. So we spent $164,000 of the $200,000. If you were to build a new child care facility that could accommodate 125 children, it'd be more than $5 million. So we want to take that. We want to now scale it to nonprofits, because before it was just available to small businesses. We want to scale it to nonprofits. And quite frankly, we're having conversations with members of Ways and Means to create a pool at the state level. So childcare, small business childcare providers across the state can make these modifications to their buildings. So that's only one piece of the puzzle, though. So that's basically accessibility. We've had the opportunity to interface with a national philanthropic organization that works on this issue across the country. We brought folks from Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and what was the third one? What? Kentucky. That's right, Kentucky, Carlos.
You sound shocked.
No, yeah, Carlos is from Kentucky. Good ideas come from Kentucky, right? So they came and we learned a lot from those states. And so these are just a couple of the policy ideas that we hope we're gonna work with partnering chambers across the state on. And so I'll go through a couple of them. Number one, we'd love to see the legislature offer enabling legislation to where a county can defer property taxes for a small business child care provider. These businesses are operating at 5, 6, 4% margins. That would be a huge win if our local governments would be willing to do that. Two, Kentucky has done this. It's just getting off the ground. A lot of child care centers provide child care for free for their employees. So it's an employee attraction and retention tool. So the Kentucky Chamber went to the state legislature and said, well, if the state were to pay these child care businesses for something they're already providing, that would be a revenue windfall for them. Big number. I mean, you start talking about that's an aspirational type thing. So that's something that we want to begin the conversation with. That's probably a multi-year process. Senate Bill 47 was introduced by Tom Davis out of Beaufort. And that essentially gives tax credits to companies that are offering subsidies for child care for their employees. So that's something that we want to pursue as well. And then the fourth is we want to, again, provide that Project 100 child care micro grant pilot that was successful here. We want to create a pool of cash at the state level so child care providers can do that and modify their buildings. Because let me just say, that's just not a child care issue. If you think about it, That child care center in Spartanburg County that got the $35,000 grant that created 14 more seats, that's 14 new lines of revenue for that small business. It makes that small business that much more sustainable, which is what we need, because child care isn't an issue that government can solve. It isn't an issue that the nonprofit sector can solve. It's not an issue that the private sector can solve. It is an issue where all of them have to solve it together. It is that big. It is that enormous. But I think South Carolina, our state in general, we have a big opportunity to bring about scale change through policy.
Alan's looking back at me to moderate, apparently. No.
I'm sorry.
So on, continuing that conversation, on the Greenville side of things, what is the child care conversation looking like there? Because it is, to Alan's point, if we, give some of this power back to the counties, sitting in a Greer seat, we obviously have to have both. And you want to make sure that our workforce has equitable access to those.
Yeah. Well, I'll acknowledge, I love giving Spartanburg a hard time at every opportunity that I can, but I really do admire what you all are doing, how you're leading on the child care front. And we're joining your effort in a lot of ways on the child care front. Like you, we have admired the problem for quite some time and realized that we're at a point of inflection and we need to do something. So we're glad to work with Spartanburg and your community on improving that, speaking of partnership.
And it's so important because this is an issue, that was one of the things that was interesting to talk about, when actually had an opportunity to go to a fellowship with 24 child care providers from 23 other, different states. They were the topical leaders in the state, and they had a whole breakout on, and then there was me, I didn't even know how I find myself in rooms I probably shouldn't be in all the time, and that was one of them, because these people have lifetimes in child care policy. And so I was there, and they had a whole breakout as to how you approach this issue in a red state. Just the altruistic type, this is the right thing to do, and that is not going to resonate. This is a business issue. It's a workforce challenge. Labor force participation rates are not what they need to be. This is one of the greatest barriers. And so having partners like the Greenville Chamber, the Greer Chamber, and the business community rallying around this issue. In fact, some of the people that have been working on this issue have said to me, finally, late to the party, glad to have you. But they've been doing a lot of good work on this issue, and we're just, hopefully we're a small part of it. And this takes time. I think, Carlos, Katie, you all know, some people think, you show up in Columbia in January and you'll have everything wrapped up in June. This could be 2, 3, 4 sessions to get meaningful policy passed, but we have to start.
Speaking of policy and partnership, gives me an opportunity to speak about the Upstate Chamber Coalition, which was launched back in 2009 with 7 chambers of commerce from throughout the Upstate to develop legislative priorities for the region and advocate for those priorities in Columbia. That program has since grown to 12 or 13 chambers. And while we live in different communities and what have you, a lot of the pro-business policies is consistent from community to community. And that's a partnership that's been going on for quite some time, and look forward to that continue.
To that point, we'd be remiss if we didn't remind you that there are 2 special election primaries today, as well as early voting is open in Greenville County. So if you have not voted today, please make sure to do that. One of the things that really has struck me about the conversations over the last 2 days was kind of this dichotomy, and I think Dean Simpson called it out a little bit earlier in terms of what we recognize is what we need to do, but also simultaneously what the challenge to that is. So we recognize that internal training programs, I think was the example, is the best way to have mentorship programs. However, we also recognize that we don't have the time to do it ourselves. So when we think of partnerships and having everybody involved at the table, that is where I think there's a massive opportunity for us to convene groups to say, we recognize these challenges. What are we all going to do to address this? Because small businesses are going to be small businesses, and they're going to, continue to not have the same, 500 people working in a training operation like a BMW or a Michelin is. So what would you both say when we talk to the business community? What does that look like? Like what does convening that look like to both of you?
Yep. I think one of our challenges is that there are so many things that we could work on. We all have more on our plate than we could reasonably say grace over. So how do you prioritize? How do you prioritize? What am I going to do first? What am I going to do next? And what have you? And that's not only a challenge for us when we're talking about partnership and how to address some of our challenges, but it's a challenge for businesses. It's a challenge for academic institutions and everybody out there. So it's working for mutual agreement on what those priorities should be. That would help.
That makes me think about in 2017, we launched Vision Plan 1.0. It was a 5-year plan, 4 core pillars: talent, place, image, and economy, with 43 strategic objectives. There's nothing strategic about 43 objectives, and so we've culled that down over the years, but you're absolutely right. You can't be a mile wide and an inch deep, and also think, too, that if you're going to do this work, if you can't scale it, then don't do it. 15, 20 credentials, that's great, but then, some of the numbers that we're looking at in terms of what the demands are, we've got to be talking about hundreds and thousands over the years. I mean, we heard Ron's presentation yesterday. We have to, again, concentrate the work. We have to scale it, or I believe we're just wasting time, energy, and resources.
So to that point, I was, another shout out to Dr. Cooper, reviewing some of the data he pulled for me earlier this year in terms of most in-demand pathways in Greater Greer for the next 5 years. And the number one, not surprisingly, was manufacturing. Number 2 was retail trades. And so when we look at retail trades and what those positions are, the number 1 listed role was cashier. So as we're having the discussion about the fact that our students are not working at a younger age, they are getting internships and work-based learning opportunities, which is fantastic, but we also are looking at this risk of not having anyone there to do the day-to-day jobs that we need to move forward. How do y'all see that playing out over the next couple of years as we continue to push credentialing in higher education for all of the phenomenal reasons that the panel before us was just discussing, but making sure that we are also filling those critical roles across our sectors?
Well, youth unemployment is high. Particularly, we know in Spartanburg County, youth unemployment is higher than the national average. And if Ron didn't say it one time, he said it 11 times yesterday. Our youth need to be working. Our youth need to be working. You learn so much when you work. And so, Carlos talked about their program. I've talked about, we're just getting started. We've got 600 work-based learning opportunities. The team's going to kill me, but I believe we're hurtling towards 1,000. We have got to that 16 to 19 group. We've got to have them working. You just gave me the side eye, Taylor. I saw that. Because, we all know, my first job was in a cornfield, second job was a Chick-fil-A, and then third job, I was in an office in a law firm. Put myself through college, and I learned so much in each of those settings. You realize that some people don't work as hard as you do. Some people show up late and leave early. Some people want to gossip and, build coalitions and office politics and all that. Learned so much, in those opportunities. I know when I was 14 years old in July in a cornfield, that's when I decided I was going to college. I wasn't going to be doing that anymore. But so many of our youth are not getting those kinds of lessons. And so it's so important. Not only that, a spark can be lit. You know, you can get that work-based learning opportunity and a spark goes off and you say, gosh, you know, in my situation, I worked at the law firm, and it just so happened that, you know, the guy's name that was on the building was a state senator. And so I got exposed to politics in Raleigh. I was failing. I'm a first-gen college student. I was failing out of college because I was taking all these stupid classes that I had no passion for any of them.
That's your excuse?
Yeah, that's the excuse. Probably spent too much time downtown too, but you know, statistics and philosophy and all these things. And then finally, because I had that work-based learning opportunity, I got exposed to politics in Raleigh. I had to take an intro to poli-sci class, and boom, that's when it hit. Like, I want to be involved in, you know, government in some way, shape, or form. You know, I want to be involved in economic development in some way, shape, or form. And so there could be literally in our region tens of thousands of those stories written if we help create them. And that's how powerful I believe WBLs can be.
So my first job was cutting lawns, and I can remember pulling a lawnmower while riding my bike from yard to yard to cut it. But my dad was an underground coal miner, and I'm going to age myself, but this was when Atari was new. And he said, "You're not going to sit on that couch and play that game all day. You're going to do something." So, but then that led to other opportunities, and those experiences really helped shape me and inform my work today. But a lot of us in this room play a key role just at home, encouraging our kids to go to work and do something. So that's great. Hey, I don't want, time is lapsing, but we have a big, hairy, and audacious opportunity here in the Upstate to accelerate a lot of the work and a lot of the solutions that we're seeking. So both of our communities, well, all three of our communities are growing at an astronomical clip. Greenville County is going to go from almost 600,000 to 800,000 people over the next 20 years. Spartanburg County is going to go from almost 400,000 to almost 550, 600,000 over that same period of time. I chuckle every time I'm on I-85 heading east, and I see the Welcome to Spartanburg County sign. It's a beautiful sign, by the way.
I
like it too.
Yep.
That's Greer, just for the record.
We have a real opportunity for economic growth, really meaningful economic growth. If we can figure out a way for all three of our communities to be in the same metropolitan statistical area.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you all know this or not, but we're in different MSAs, and it's crazy. There's a magic number that these site selectors are looking for when it comes to community size, or MSA size, and it's 1 million. That's the magic number. And the combined population of this Greenville, Greer, Spartanburg consolidated MSA would certainly exceed 1 million. We land on a lot of additional lists for careers, for opportunities that can really help take our region to the next level. And that's going to require some encouragement from our respective constituents and folks throughout our community. And it's going to require some changes at the federal level. But I really see, now that's something that it's some, I consider that aspirational. I consider it necessary, though.
So he's absolutely right. We've run that down before, and it could be time to do it again. So if the MSAs were to come together, so we're Spartanburg, Cherokee Union, Greenville, Simpsonville, Malden. If they came together, we would be the 16th largest MSA in the country. We would actually edge past Salt Lake City, Utah. So, I mean, that's good company to keep. From a talent attraction perspective, that's a big number as well. When you begin to start talking about, you know, a Greenville, Greer, Spartanburg, MSA, you start talking about 1.3, 1.4 million people. Now, Office of Management and Budget, when we tried to pursue this before, talked about traffic patterns yet are not what they need to be, but I've learned in the past that political pressure can change bureaucratic decisions.
I don't know what traffic patterns they're talking about. Traffic patterns I see suggest otherwise.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think it could mean big things in terms of talent attraction. You know, big economic development opportunity, which goes all into what we've been talking about is, and this is something that our state, and I don't want to get us too far off track, but one supports the other, and that is, you know, between North Carolina and Georgia, I think now there's 34 Fortune 500 companies. South Carolina has 0. You know, and so we can list the reasons why, you know, there's not enough direct flights. You know, GSP seems like they're adding one every 2 or 3 months. That's great. Education attainment is a big one. You know, you want to see more of these higher paying jobs. Well, one, if we can have a 1.3, 1.4 million MSA, we start driving up education attainment, all of a sudden we're on lists that we would have never been before. And I'm not saying that, you know, we go out and recruit a Fortune 500 company next year, but you start seeing regional back offices, you begin to see, you know, more of those, quote, knowledge-based white-collar jobs, wages go up, so on and so forth. And quite honestly, it's something that we've been moving the needle on for a while, because if you remember 40 or 50 years ago, this region had all its eggs in one basket, and that was textiles. And so right now, you know, manufacturing, advanced manufacturing is a big part of our economic development portfolio. It's our bread and butter. It's great, and we're going to lean into that. But I also think that we have to say yes and. And, you know, MSA would be a big one. Continuing to drive up education attainment would be a big coup as well, and we could really, really get competitive in that space.
Well, and in the spirit of the topic of our conversation of partnerships, if you will, you know, I chuckle because people think that our communities don't work together. And we know that there's a lot more that goes on than the general public may recognize. But you want to talk about true partnership and collaboration. If we could somehow become the Greenville, Greer, Spartanburg, MSA, I think that'd be pretty special. We're
already a part of the same labor shed. I mean, when we're recruiting companies, we don't just draw the Spartanburg County and say, okay, you know, you have a labor pool of 380,000 people and that's it. No, I mean, it's always a circle. And, you know, depending upon the job, depending upon the wage, people will drive even further. That circle even goes into North Carolina at times. I see Elizabeth here. I mean, she could probably tell you to the minute how far somebody's willing to drive based on what wage you're paying. So you're right. I mean, we're all part of the same labor shed.
I think when we think about partnerships and collaboration, that is, I mean, what an ask to kind of end on. Something to move the needle that requires more than our 3 organizations. It requires academia, government, industry. When we think about that triple helix again, it is going to take everybody in partnership to move the needle there. I know we've got a couple of minutes left. I didn't actually get to ask Carlos if you're okay with questions, but if we want to, no.
Do I have any questions?
I was going to open it up and see if anybody had any questions for us.
Yeah, please, yes.
Now, Benny, we got 4 minutes. Okay.
Carlos, this is, I recognize, the way game for you. Defensive. I was reading a stat recently that there was a time where about 1,000 people a year were moving from Greenville to Spartanburg. I couldn't find the accompanying stat of people from Spartanburg moving to Greenville, so I assume nobody from Spartanburg wanted to move to Greenville. Last week, we did a ribbon cutting on our planetarium that's a foot taller than Greenville's. Can you address the rumor that I've started that Greenville is scared of Spartanburg?
Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear.
And Alan, you can follow up.
No, I think there are migration patterns between both communities as well. What we're seeing, though, is in Greenville County, this additional 200,000 people that we're going to see over the next 20 years, those won't be the result of natural childbirths. Those will be the result of folks migrating from somewhere else. The humorous side of me says that you're going to see a significant talent drain from Spartanburg County to Greenville County. That's probably not the case. But both of our communities are experiencing significant in-migration right now. And one of our opportunities, I know, is to ensure that we grow in a way that the people who are moving here from elsewhere, they're moving to the place that they thought they were moving to. While the people who've lived in these communities, in our communities for quite some time, they continue to love the place that they live, the sense of community and quality of life that they've experienced for so many years. So whether one is moving to or from Spartanburg, to or from one of our respective communities and what have you, we want them to have a great quality of life. We want them to be able to achieve their career goals that they seek. But now I will say, if there is talent that is seeking a community change, our doors are open in Greenville County.
Well, Todd, let me say, I mean, people follow job and they follow affordability. And nationally speaking, Tiffany broke it down. I mean, we're winning in both, and I think our region will continue to win in both. And as long as we're winning in those categories, you know, you hear so many people say, growth is coming, growth is coming. No, growth is here. Growth is here. And so, I mean, not to get off of talent so much, but we're in a position now where we can choose quality over quantity. There was a time where we would just take any company that was willing to offer any job, paying any wage. We do not do that anymore.
And the whole moniker about us being a cheap place for labor.
That's right.
And it's not the case, and it can't be the case for us to recruit and retain the talent that we want to see. People no longer follow jobs. Jobs follow talent, and we're indicative of organizations, companies realizing just the rich talent that we've got here in our upstate region, and they're coming here.
A question. So I'm probably at the intersection of all three of you all because I have a Greer address in Spartanburg County. I work in Spartanburg County, and my daughter is zoned for Greenville County schools, which is so insane. So I touch on all three areas.
We probably live pretty close to each other then.
Yes, and every day that I'm driving from my home here in Spartanburg to work here in Spartanburg, I'm thinking about transportation. And as we're talking about the workforce development and expanding and creating opportunities for people to be within this community and work in different places in different locations, has there ever been any conversation about collaboration on a monorail or transit system or something that connects the three areas?
There's been a lot of conversation. I'm not sure there's a willingness to invest, to be quite honest with you. In 2023, we passed a penny, and we're going to be investing $500 million in improving our roads. So hopefully, we might not have public transit, but hopefully people will be able to get around easier because of that investment. But these are 20, 30-year type goals, and I don't see anything wrong with talking and having the conversation some more. There's not a community in South Carolina that's figured out public transit, so we could be the first. I don't know.
Yeah, what I would say to that is Greer in particular is interesting because obviously with the county split, there are no true lines that go the whole way. We've seen a lot of industry step up in that space and offer, be it certain incentives or cover Uber rides or whatever that looks like to make sure that their workforce is still able to access work. So I think you're seeing some creative solutions to that. But to Alan's point, I mean, there's a lot of talk about it, but not a lot of action.
Just one more question before we end. So I wanted to thank Spartanburg and Greenville because I was a Launch Greenville ambassador when I was at Wade Hampton. While being a Launch Greenville ambassador, USC Upstate came to give me a scholarship to finally go to USC Upstate. So I am not only thankful for both of the opportunities that you guys provided, but you helped out the youth and that idea of partnership and also helping out our youth so we can have that resume so we can go to the workforce and to have that work-based internships that these kids can have. You guys provided that for me. So the question I wanted to ask is, are y'all able to continue it past high school to college for those ambassadors who were in high school and who did do those opportunities? What is it looking at for USC Upstate or any other college like Greenville Technical College?
So yes, we're moving our program from high school to college with 7 colleges here. That makes sense for us to do that. And one of the things we found in high schools is these CTEs, they're the ones that draw the scale. I mean, we had the Star Fellowship, they've learned about all the employment opportunities, and then they fed the interns out to the employers that are creating them. And so we're going to duplicate that model with the career folks at each of the institutions of higher learning at the college level as well. So as sticky as we can get you to be, we're going to do that because we need to retain every single person graduating from our higher ed institutions.
That's an excellent idea. So we've got our Launch Greenville program director here with us today, and I'm sure he wrote that down, and we'll go back and we'll talk about that at the Greenville Chamber. But man, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for demonstrating the initiative to do what you think you need to do to achieve your goals. And that's what we want to see. That's what we want to see more people do. So thank you.
Let's give our panelists a round of applause. I'm going to ask them to stay where they are. And if you all would indulge me for about 3 more minutes.